Alright, welcome back to Squash Tech Gaming. So, Path of Exile 2 has put out a new patch. I've played quite a bit of it. I am playing a Lightning Arrow, Archer, or Ranger. My Ascendancy is Deadeye. And so, I'm right before the Dreadnought in Act 2. So, I thought I would cover what I've experienced after the patch. Um, so there's been a lot of buffs. GGG said that they weren't going to nerf without a huge revision patch where you start over fresh. They'd only buff, and they've done a lot of buffing. So, um, I've got a list of notes here on the things that I noted and what I thought, and so we'll go over that. So, like I was saying, I'm playing a Lightning Arrow Deadeye. Um, I'm using the Warden Bow uh, because it's got that maim on hit. So, uh, I'm sorry, that's my secondary weapon, the spear. So I'm using a secondary weapon using a spear. Uh, it's the hunting spear, so it's got the maim on hit. I can also use rake and spear field with that, just for up close targets and slow things down. Because as they're coming at you, sometimes slowing them down or using the spear field to like stun shield bearers because they kind of block my my arrows, and that's worked out pretty well for me. For things that just rush me, I can just throw out a couple spear fields before I do like the what do you call it? Before I open up for a essence or whatnot, I throw down some spear field, and then I open it and then jump behind that, and that kind of slows everything down so I get a chance, so I don't get just bombarded right off the bat, which has worked well for me. So, like I said, I'm right at the Dreadnought at Act 2. Um, so, my first comments is on loot. So, I think currency is way better. The drop rate is quite extensive now compared to before. Like, I was constantly needing more currency to just do anything. And so now the drops seem pretty good. I'm getting Augs, Regals, and Exalts, where I played a ton of hours and never got, barely any of those. So, and the Regals and Exalts, those are what matter the most. So I'm actually getting a fair number, so I don't feel like I'm constrained at all times. I mean, they're not dropping like all the time, but I play for a couple hours, I get a couple, and that's all I really need. So I think that they've got that really close to where it needs to be. I mean, maybe a few more wouldn't hurt, just because it's always nice to have more currency, but I think that it's actually fair now. Also, blacksmiths, whetstones, and Oris scrap is dropping pretty often as well, which is nice. So it's not just dependent on how much I, you know, pick up and transmit into currency. So that's nice to see. The item drops. These, I feel like it's great now. So before, if you ever dropped a rare, you'd get, it'd have two stats a lot of the time, and they'd be crap stats. So you might as well just turn it into currency because it's rare that you would get anything of value. I feel like the majority of the rares that are dropping now have a lot of them have 4 to 5 stats, and they're generally pretty decent, which is way better than before. So that means I'm not spending a bunch of currency just to make a rare worth it. You know what I mean? So with 4 to 5 stats dropping, and on occasion, they're rare, but I've even seen some drop that have 6 stats, so it's fully fledged out, which is actually pretty nice since, I'm don't have enough currency to make everything a rare item, so that is definitely an improvement. Uh, I feel like there used to be an occasional rare, um, and about 25% magic drop, and all the rest were white items. Now I feel like it's like 50% of the drops are magic items. So that in itself also saves me in currency, and I can see what's good and what's not. So I feel like that's quite the improvement. Um, More magic fine drops, more rare drops, less just white items. So that's working for me. Um, I still think that movement speed on boots stats should be implicit because, I mean, I pick up every boot I can find, white, magic, rare, it doesn't matter. And um, if it's magic and the first two stats are not movement speed, it's garbage. So I'm just re-rolling into currency. Um, and so having movement speed on your boots is pretty mandatory because the movement speed is so bad, um, that I think it should just be implicit on all boots. That's straight up my opinion. I understand. You may disagree. Um, if so, put it down in the comments because I'd like to see your point of view. But not having movement speed on boots is just garbage. So if it doesn't have that, unless once you're past level like 10 or 11 without movement speed on your boots, you're not progressing well because you can't move fast enough to stay away from the mobs. So you're pretty much dead on arrival. So I still think it's a little too rare to find movement speed on boots. I mean, even 10% is huge in comparison to nothing. So I am a ranger, so I do have a few stats on my tree that I can actually add a little bit of movement speed. So right now I have an additional 4%, so I'm wearing 10% movement speed, even though the 15% is better, and I have a few, but the stats on those items are not that good, and my 10% movement speed boots have pretty good stats. So with that additional 4%, um, I, I'm doing all right. Actually, I think I actually have 6%, but I'm only getting 4. So somewhere in there, there's a penalty on movement speed, and I haven't quite figured out what it is. So without the 10% movement speed, I have a negative 3% without the tree additional movement speed. Pardon me. I'm not sure what that's coming from because I have no armor on. So I went through my whole tree or my whole inventory looking at all the items that I'm wearing, and none of them have any armor. And I know that's a penalty for wearing armor for against your movement speed. And yet I still had a negative 3% movement speed. So with 10%, I was getting like 7. So I'm not sure where it's coming from. I'd like to figure that out. If you know, please drop it in the comments because I'm not clear. I knew that armor had penalty, but I didn't know if anything else does. So I'd like to figure out why I have a negative 3 penalty for movement without having any armor. So I still think the movement speed stat is too rare on the drops because I pick up every boot, like I said, white or not, and when I get enough currency, I put 2 stats in it. If I don't get movement speed, then I get rid of it. But I have more boots than I have currency, so I have quite a few in my inventory just waiting to throw some stats in there and see. Because even if it's a lower level than I am, if I start another character, I can always use those movement speed boots because they're harder to find. In the actual, buying from the merchant, if it has movement speed, then I buy it, even if it's armor because it's better than nothing. So And I think in all of my playthrough on this, I've found like two at the merchant. So it's they're not often. So let's see. Um, let's see. Best stats from the vendor is always on armor. I don't know why that is, but every time I've been trying to find rarity gear because rarity seems like it's still, you need at least like 15 to 20%, or you just get augs all the time instead of getting exalts or regals. So you got to have a little bit at least. Preferably like 30 to 50% would be great, but I'm lucky when I can keep like, 18 to 20. And right now, I had to upgrade all my gear because, it felt like the mobs were overpowering me. And um, when I find good gear, it's all in the armor for some reason. The merchants, all their good gear, the two movement speed boots that I bought from the merchant, guess what? Their armor gear, which already has a penalty. So you get a 10% movement speed buff, and then you're getting a 3 or 5% penalty. So it's really like 5% movement speed, but it's better than nothing, right? And I feel like I get rarity that shows up in the merchant, and it's all on armor stats. So they it seems like they've waited that if you're going to wear armor, the stats at the merchant seem a little bit better. Because every time I find good stats, it's on armor, and I'm not wearing armor. I'm, going evasion and energy shield because that's the type of build that I'm doing. So I don't know why that is, but I think that they need to weight it evenly. Because from my experience, um, it's weighted towards armor getting the best stats. Let's see. I'm still uh, I'm a bow player, so for this one, and for some reason, finding a good bow, like I found one good bow and I used it all the way up to like level 22 because I couldn't find another bow with decent stats. So I don't know why that is because I've never played a bow character in POE 2 until now. So and then um, ever since then I'm hunting for another one. So I'm now level 32. So in 10 levels, and I have yet to find an upgrade for my bow. So another weird thing, it's like maybe it's just RNG and I'm just not lucky. I'm not sure, but um, I dumped a little currency in there and upgraded that bow, and I cannot find anything better in 10 plus levels. So that's interesting. I'm still not sure that because your weapon makes a big difference on how you play. And if you're going 10 plus levels and you can't find an upgrade to your weapon, that is harsh. Because, the mobs continue to increase in their difficulty and everything else as you go, but you are kind of staying the same. I mean, you're getting levels, and so your stats are increasing because of your tree and whatnot, but you should be getting a weapon upgrade, I'd say every 5 levels at a minimum. Otherwise, you feel like you're getting stagnant. So maybe it's just RNG, but I think they should work on that. Strong boxes. So they've improved the strong boxes greatly. They are awesome now. When I see one, I get excited now because I had a strong box drop, um, 3 regals and an exalt out of one, and all I did was identify it. I didn't upgrade it or anything because I didn't have any currency on me. So I identified it, I opened it, boom, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" So that is huge. Strong boxes are worth it. Chests. It's now worth going out of your way to go open a chest because it's not going to just I mean, occasionally you still find them empty, but not that often. But 9 out of 10 times you get something out of it, whether it's currency or an item drop. And even if it's just a white item, I'm selling that all because I'll get into this a little bit more. Um, because gold is a currency that I need because I need to purchase anything good that pops up in the vendor, and I don't seem to be getting enough of it. So I am hoarding all the garbage loot that I find, which means I have to go back to town quite often because my inventory can only hold so much. Throw it in the chest, and then at the end, when I've completed an entire map, then I weed through it, pick out anything valuable, and then sell or turn into currency all the rest of it. So um, but chests are now valuable, and strong boxes are awesome. Boss fights. So, the mechanics I feel like have changed slightly. So, especially the last bosses right before you go on to the next act, they seem like some of their mechanics have been improved and changed. However, I do feel like there's a difficulty ramp. Like I was going through the manor, I was slaying everything, and yet I fought the that guy that turns into a wolf that's in the manor. I can't remember quite the name of the boss. Well, okay, so I fought him 10 times. The first 5 times I had a problem where the game would crash. I'd get him down to a quarter health or less, and then the game would just crash on me. So it happened multiple times. So I stopped playing for a little while because I was like, well, I can't move on because when I try and beat the boss, every time I get him down to a quarter life, I tried changing my graphic settings. I mean I'm stable consistently, but I was like trying to weed out what the problem could possibly be. So I tried turning down my graphic settings. No problem there. I have a 7900 XTX. It pretty much handles this game without a problem, even while streaming. But I was like, well, maybe it's on my side. And that didn't seem to be the case. I had nothing, no crashes anywhere else, except every time I fought that boss, it would crash. So I came back after a little while. I tried again. It was still crashing. So I had 5 times it crashed down at quarter health. And then I still, when I was trying to beat him, when he gets to a quarter health, he has this mechanic where he does the ice drops and it has like blood modules on it. So it like siphons your blood away or whatever. And that, just with the level that I was at, it was kicking my ass. I will just say it straight up. So I was just wiping the floor with all the mobs through the manor. But for some reason, when I got to the boss, I mean, it was epic trying to fight him. But I did finally take him down. No crashes. So since they put out the patch, everything has been super stable. I've had zero issues whatsoever with crashing, hitching, nothing. Everything's smooth. So I appreciate that they fixed all that. Um, I guess I crashed 6 times and I fought him 4 times without it crashing before I finally beat him. Let's see. The that little spirit essence thing that where you run into that guy and you follow the little spirit around and then he infects or infests himself into one of the mobs and makes it harder. So they've improved that quite a bit as well. It seems like it's worth it. I'm getting good drops from that. I usually get a rare or two with full stats. That is pretty valuable. So, I mean, if nothing else, if it's not even the stats that you need, I mean, sellable item with 6 stats, you can get some good money from the vendor if you're not going to turn it into currency. Um, it it's I feel like it's definitely worth the risk because there is some risk involved because they run by a bunch of mobs quite quickly and then they're all kind of chasing you down, so you got to kind of follow and backpedal and shoot behind you to take them out so that when you do get to the enhanced uh, mob, whatever that it decides to go into, you're not getting overwhelmed by all the ones you just ran by. So it can be slightly epic fights. But that guy does help fight him, and it kind of distracts the main mob a little bit. So that does help keep you alive while you pick off all the rest of the following mobs that you ran by, and then you can turn around and focus on him. So I think that's quite good. Um, so I also have a hypothesis. So I was in the one of that sand map where it's all deserty, and um, the way I'd routed through the map, I like came by on the one side, cleared out all the mobs, went down, fought the boss wolf guy, and then I came back and cleared the other side, and then I had a patch. So I went and checked the patch, and sure enough, there was one there, but I'd pretty much killed all the mobs. So I was like, huh, I wonder where it's going to go. So I followed it, and it drifted off into this little spot, and it spawned a new rare to infest. So I feel like that even if you've wiped out all the mobs, it will spawn a rare so that it has something to infest, which is pretty interesting. So you can literally fight all the mobs, and since I killed all the mobs, it didn't have anything to run by and pick a bunch of mobs to follow me because I'd cleared the map, except that one little area. So, I mean, whether you get a bonus rare due to that, I mean, at least that's the way it seemed to happen to me. So I kind of thought that was kind of neat. Okay. Um, so I've got some negatives here. Uh, so I still think after the patch that some gear has too high a stat requirements to wear. So especially the intelligence side. So I don't have a whole lot of intelligence. I'm mostly, I've got like 25 strength. I'm mostly into dext. And so my int is like in the 40-ish range. But all the gear I want to wear is like 50, 60 int. And so you basically have to invest in a bunch of intelligence to wear any type of gear that has any type of uh, shield on it. So I don't quite understand sometimes what their stat requirements are, because you know, I'm not like super high level, so I don't have that much investment in that, and yet it requires a lot. And there's some other stats that just seem extraordinarily high on the requirements just to wear the gear. So I think it would be better if it was just a little bit lower. I mean, I understand you don't need to make it super easy, but damn, man, I go up a level and it's like I'm short on stats all the time. So that's my view, anyways. If you feel differently, let me know down in the comments. Let's see. Gold quantity. Okay, I told you I'd go back to this. So it's still too low, in my opinion. So it's just I picked up every single item that I find on the ground, white or not, and either turn it into currency, use it or save it, or um, or I sell it. Like every single item, which means that I'm going back to porting back to town a lot, which is annoying, a little bit tedious and frustrating, but it's the only way I can maintain any type of gold quantity. So this was not my first character, so I had like, I don't know, 15k gold to start, and by the time I got to like level 20, I was down to like 2 or 3 gold. Uh, sorry, 2 or 3 thousand gold, which that's just because I bought a few things from the vendor. I was like, ooh, that's good. Boom, buy it. You know, oh, that's cheap. I'll buy it. You know, just so I can go take it over to my workbench and take the the essence and stuff out of it. So I feel like I don't get enough gold to really. So I'm constantly hunting. The amount of gold that you pick up is not nearly enough for what I think, because you have to have kind of a stockpile, because if something pops up in the vendor that's, one of the items you've been hunting for, and it's 5K. So either the prices of the vendors need to come down, or the gold you find needs to come up to match, or maybe a little bit of both. A little bit more gold you pick up and a little bit less cost in the vendor would make it so that I'm not like constantly hunting to find enough. So I know in later, when you get up into the higher levels, that's not a problem, because you're getting all sorts of items. That's not a problem. But when you're going through the campaign, it's not that often that you get a nice item that shows up in the vendor and then it's like 5K gold, and you have four and you've sold everything, and then you got to try and find 1,000 gold before your next level, or it's gone. That can be frustrating. So okay, let's see. So in conclusions, I'm having fun. I actually stopped playing there for a little while because it felt like more of a grind than it was a game. And when you play a game, the whole idea is to spend some time having fun away from the reality of the world. I play it to have a break, and of course to make videos. So I was grinding for a long time, even though I wasn't having fun, just so I could put out some content. And so I actually went and played some LE for a while. Last Epoch, for those who don't know, that game's actually pretty fun as well. Just out of kind of desperation, because I wanted to have fun while I played, and I wasn't there for a while. I feel like the patches have come around quite a bit that have really increased it back to a game that I want to play. The difficulty in general seems pretty good. Maybe the boss fights, the ramp up is quite extreme, and maybe that's good. I haven't quite made a full decision on that, but it seems like it's quite the ramp up for just the boss battle, and then you go back and just annihilating all the mobs. So maybe there's some balance there. Drops are much better. Currency drops are good. Rares and magic items, I feel like it's not just that they're dropping more often, that they're actually the stats are higher and seem more valuable use cases than just, okay, yeah, it dropped, but it's garbage all the time. So that's good. I still think the boots should have movement implicit, because that's one of the weak spots in the gear. Finding movement speed boots with good stats is a constant struggle. Chests and strong boxes, they're both good and valuable. Finding essences way more often. Oh, yeah. So before I could never find essences. It was like once every hour I would find one, and so now when I'm finding, sometimes two, even once. I even found three in one map. So finding essences seems like way more often. So that's cool. The new socketables with stats are helpful, especially since I'm hurting for int all the time. I've actually thrown, instead of just doing having res in there, I've actually thrown in one of those socketables that has int, and that helped me a lot. I needed 6 more, and I didn't have it. I didn't have gear that could provide it, and I was able to just make it socketable and throw in 6 int, and boom, I was good to go. So I do think that those are pretty cool, and I've found quite a bit. So those are not as super rare anymore as they used to be. I feel like I find them pretty often, so that's pretty nice. And the fact that I'm actually finding crafting materials as I'm playing, instead of just depending on what I turn into a craftable material, that's finding the drops way more often than before, so that's pretty awesome. Boss fights. The mechanics have improved. Not sure the difficulty is scaling quite right, but let me know what you think in the comments. Loot. Some stats are too high to wear. Like I said, boots with movement speed are still rare. Vendor prices are too high, or gold drop is too low, or maybe it's a combination of a little bit of both. Um, so, uh, armor stats still sucks. So I still think that it's not balanced correctly. So I'm avoiding it because of the movement penalty. Um, and then, like I said, I'm not. Something else is also giving me a movement penalty. I'm not sure what it is because I had that -3 even with no armor. I'm not sure why. So if you know that, please drop in the comments. Um, Crashing and stability is much improved. I feel like the game is very playable. No problems whatsoever with the new patch. So, and it was not stable before. There were certain areas that I would hit and it would just want to crash there regularly. Um, so from what I've seen, the update is worth it. I'm having fun, and that's the point of the game. Um, let's see. Visuals. I think they've improved a lot of the visuals on some of the mechanics. For example, Spearfield, which I've been using, it the visual on that is now way improved from what it was. Not that I minded it the way it was before, but it does have a cool animation now when you use it. And one other thing I noticed is, so I've also got some poison that I use, and the arrows that are poisoned are the spears that Spearfield, when it pops up, they turn green. The ones that have poison attached to them, which I thought was a pretty cool animation. And it actually, like, you can actually see how many of your spears have the poison. Not all of them. Maybe if I improve my stats, it would be. I'm not sure, but I thought that was pretty cool. They've shortened the time of the on-ground death animations. So before, like those blood pools that would show up, the on-death effects, they would last extraordinarily long amount of time, and those are probably one of the worst ground effects ever. Is those blood pools? They really sap your life away, and you'd block an entire hallway with like 4 or 5 of them. I can't walk through that. I gotta wait. And so standing back and waiting for them to go away used to take an extraordinarily long time. So the fact that they are only staying on the ground for a short period of time, I'm on board with that. Overall, I think it's a great patch. I still yet to get to end game, so I don't know how they've improved that, if at all. I haven't even completed the campaign with the new playthrough, but at least what I've seen so far, it's great improvement. I still think there should be life on the tree. There's still not enough of it. The amount is poor. I think that just increasing your life stats is pretty important, and you have to do it all through gear, and I wouldn't mind having some of that on the tree. I'm looking forward to future improvements. GGG, just keep doing what you're doing. You're on the path to success, because the turnaround from this patch versus before, where it was complete grind fest, that's huge, because I want to play this game and I want it to be fun, and there for a while it just wasn't. I mean, if I wanted Dark Souls, I would go play Dark Souls. So I want to feel like I am improving myself as I play, and that's fun. And it wasn't fun for a while, but it's come back. So go GGG. It's not perfect, but it's greatly improved. So that's what I've got. I covered all my notes. So if you want more of this content, please like and subscribe. Drop me a comment. Tell me what you think after the patch, before the patch, either way. If you know why I was getting a negative movement penalty, even with no armor, let me know because I'm trying to figure that one out. And uh, play on. All right. This is Squatch Tech Gaming signing out.